Welcome to the Spill Street Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we're going to have a very special episode. We're going to be talking about what goes into curating an art exhibit with Miss Emily S. For those of you who don't know, Emily is the art director for Robert Kent Galleries and Frame Shop here in Atlanta, Georgia. And she's going to help give us some insight on this topic today. Emily, how's it going?
It's going great. Too blessed to be stressed.
I know that's right. Okay, so before we get into it, right, in this day and time, especially on Instagram and the whole digital age, anybody who has pretty much like some sort of an art platform, is automatically giving themselves curator, including me. I'm guilty of it too. You know what I'm saying? And when you go to an art exhibit at a museum or a gallery, it's like a whole nother type of, ball game. So before we dive into, what goes into curating an art exhibit, can you explain what an art curator does?
Of course. So, an art curator is responsible for finding new artists to display in the gallery setting, as well as kind of trying to develop a cohesive show in the gallery that I like to say draws all different crowds in, but also invokes some sort of feeling from the audience as well. Especially here in Marietta, we want to really represent our local artists in the local art scene, kind of let their voices be heard. So that's kind of what an art curator does. Pretty simple. There's a lot that goes into it, but it's an awesome job.
Okay, I like that. Okay, so now I know that your title is art director. So just real quick, how did you become an art director?
Yeah, so it was really cool. This whole job is just, it's a godsend for me. One day I was walking around on Marietta Square, where our gallery is located. It was kind of during COVID time. And I walked into this gallery, Robert Kent Galleries, and I talked to the owner for a bit, talked about artwork. And he asked me if I was looking for a job. It was really that simple, but I did not start as the art director. That I worked my way up to that. I started doing their social media, their marketing. The question he actually asked me, Robert, the owner, was, we're looking for someone to do marketing, and I was told to hire someone that looks about your age, who looked a little bit nerdy. And I was like, okay.
Right.
So he asked me if I was looking for a job. At the time, I wasn't. And so I reached back out to them like a year later, and I got the job, and I worked my way up to being the director. So I have a history. I went to school for fine art, so I know a lot about the subject. And yeah, I mean, it was a slow burn. I've been here for about 3.5 years now, been the art gallery director for a little over a year. So that's kind of how I started in this position.
Okay. Shout out to Emily making big moves in the fine art business. Let me find out. Okay, so for people who aspire to be in the fine art gallery space and they want to get more into curating, maybe such as myself.
Oh, okay.
But let me stop playing. But on the real, for people that's really serious about getting into the fine art gallery space, what is the first thing that they want to do when curating a new exhibit?
Curating a new exhibit. I think the first thing you need to do, and a gallery is also a business, and that's something that you have to take into consideration, is you have to know your market. You got to know what people are interested in the community. You have to know, what kind of artwork that people are purchasing. And you have to find that fine line between what you're interested in as a person and also what the market is interested in. Because if I was curating an exhibit based on solely what I like and the style of artwork that I like, then it's going to be completely different than what everyone else is going to like. So you have to find different styles. You have to find different artists who fill different niches. So, and that's something really important to remember. So your question, are you asking in regards to getting into being a director or just curating the space
No,
itself?
you answered it. You answered it pretty much right. So like, okay, so with you saying that, right? Okay, so the first thing that you're basically saying is you want to know your market when going into a
Mhm.
new exhibit. That's like the whole gist of what you're saying. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that brings me into the next thing I was going to ask you, right? So you got to know your market. You got to know where, yeah, you got to know who you are making art for. You got to know where you're making art at. So I'm just curious, like, how important is the theme and or concept when going into a new exhibit?
Hmm. So the theme is important. When we curate shows, we have an art walk the first Friday of every month, and our
Okay.
theme is more focused around our local artists and like the time of the year. So it's a little tough to say because
Hmm.
like during springtime we want to have obviously more florals, more bright colors, people are feeling lively. Um, but during like December and during the winter months, it's going to be a little more, I feel like, contemporary, more modern
Hmm. Hmm.
artwork. So that's kind of how we go with our theme. um And if we get new artwork in, so let's say we find a new artist, or a new artist reaches out to us and they have a really, really good collection of work that we want to display immediately and get them into a show, then maybe we'll even center our whole exhibit around this new body of work. And then, say they're like beautiful landscapes that we get, we would get other artists who also have beautiful landscapes and kind of go with that. So that's
Okay.
that's really how we come up with the theme. It's not something that's super planned out from a long period in advance. It's more, we go with what we're receiving and
Hmm.
what we see that people are asking for at the time, um, and what our local artists are creating, the ones that we work
Okay.
with on the
Okay,
regular.
not to cut you off, not to cut you off,
No,
not to
all
cut you
good.
off, but I want to stay right there. I want to stay right there with what you're talking about with the artists, right? So out here in Atlanta, right? Okay, I went to Art Institute. I had a lot of friends from SCAD and the fine art space, who did sculpting and also original artwork. And I'm gonna be real with you. I love my artists out here, especially all of my local, fine artists. But a lot of artists could be difficult to work with. So I'm just curious, how do you go about collaborating with artists during the curation process?
Hmm, that is a
Like,
good
how are
question.
you reaching out to them? Yeah, like how are you reaching out to them? How are y'all coming up with the theme together, or are they pretty much telling you, "Hey, I want everything to go like this," and you follow my lead? Like, what's it like?
Yeah, so like you said, it is a collaboration process. As the artist, we don't want to stifle their creativity. So their style is their style, and we like to keep them at that.
Mhm.
Of course, we have specific things that we think are
Okay.
going to do better in our market, like different settings, different color palettes. So a lot of artists actually ask us those questions, while they know that they're going to be creating for our gallery. They want to sell, we want to sell them.
Hmm.
So that's
Hmm.
kind of the mutual interest is, we want to sell
Hmm.
their work. They want to sell their work. They
Yeah.
want their work to resonate with people. Um, some artists are, more open to doing that than others. Um, but I truly
Uh-huh.
believe, when they ask me, what do you think is going to sell here? I'm going to advise
Hmm.
them and say, hey, this is what we've had better luck with. This is what we've seen. But in the end, it's your creativity that, we value. It's your style. We don't want you to change who you are as an artist just to sell. We want you to create because that's something in you that needs to come out. We want you to create based on your own
Hmm.
style, your own individuality.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
collaborating, and we've tried to get better about this with our shows, is
Hmm. Right.
we want the artists to send us images of what they already have in their
Right.
studios, or we'll even go visit their studios, which is super fun. and look at the work that they already have, and then we'll be like, hey, I think that this one's going to be a great fit for the gallery and for our market. And then
Hmm.
it's that battle within, especially as a curator, that just because I really love this painting, we're going to have that painting forever. Maybe you'd have better luck with this painting in a different market or at a different setting. Um, so it's really hard. It's hard, but it's fun and it's rewarding. But yeah, that's kind of how
You
we collaborate with them.
it's funny, like it almost sounds like a teacher student, type of situation a little bit when you speak about it. Because it's like you're telling the artist, well, the artist is saying, hey, I want to come in and do the theme or the concept like this. And then you'll kind of balance it out by saying, hey, over here, we can do that. But a lot of these types of works have been selling. So I kind of got a good gist of like how y'all go about the collaborating process, and it sounds pretty dope, honestly.
Mhm.
So like from the initial idea of the planning to opening night, is it pretty much consistent, or are y'all having situations where y'all may have to improvise and switch it up a little bit? Has that ever
Oh
happened?
no, we definitely have to improvise and switch things up a good bit. It's always
Ooh, we.
yeah.
Okay.
It's it's interesting because I feel like a
Uh-huh.
lot of people see an art gallery and they think, what do they do all
Uh-huh.
day? It's like I'm
Just look
always
rich.
busy.
You just sell expensive shit, right? You
Yeah,
just,
no, but it's not even that because it's
yeah.
like we don't just wait. And this is something I don't know if the other galleries are like this. Actually, I know a lot of them are,
Uh-huh.
but we don't just wait for people to come in to look at the art and
Uh-huh.
fall in love with it. We do a lot of
Hmm.
marketing. We reach out to people and we reach out to
Hmm.
a lot of designers
Hmm.
to set up visits with them and show artwork.
Hmm.
So it's like there's a lot of
Hmm.
improvising, there's a lot of on the fly. Um,
Right.
like if we have our current exhibit up and someone brings in a new painting that's just super beautiful, like we'll switch some things out so we can get that painting in. But yeah.
Okay. Okay. So like speaking of the challenges, right? Are there any possible, politics that come along with these art exhibits? Like for an example, like do you face like any challenges with, potential stakeholders like patrons, sponsors, gallery owners? Are there times where they may get in the way and kind of compromise, the show with bad judgment?
No, no, I
Okay.
wouldn't say that. There's definitely times. So art
Hmm.
is it's so subjective. Um,
Hmm.
Robert and Holly, they co-own the gallery and they're great. I love working with them, but we all have very different tastes. And
Okay.
what I think is going to be a good piece to put in the exhibit might be extremely different from what
Yeah.
Robert wants to put in the
Right.
exhibit. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of collaboration with that too. Um,
Okay.
I'll usually ask Robert, I'll be like, hey,
Uh-huh.
before I hang the show, are there
Hmm.
maybe 5 or 10 paintings that you absolutely want to see on
Hmm.
display? So it kind of
Right.
avoids that. But no, I mean, I wouldn't say there's any other challenges with any stakeholders or anything. I don't think we even really have that. So,
Okay. Okay. So overall, just to kind of end on a good note with the collaboration, would you say like overall between the artist, the curator, and even the gallery owner, um, all of y'all as a collective are making the final decision as to how the story is going to go, or will the artist ultimately get that get that decision?
no, I think it's more us as a collective at the
Okay.
gallery. Um,
Okay.
the story is told through their work
Hmm.
and the work that they bring in and how we display it.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
I mean, I would say it's more us. Yeah. The
Okay.
artists, whenever they bring in a piece that they really like, and I usually ask them, I say, hey, out of this collection, which ones are your top favorite that you want to put on display? Because I want to make sure that those are highlighted. Um,
Okay.
and so I'll
Okay.
always try and get that up. But at the end of the day, if there's a piece that I just, it doesn't really work with the rest of
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
exhibit, then maybe we'll
Mhm.
just put it on the side,
Mhm.
because we have our entire gallery is hung, and we have paintings everywhere. But aside from having the display that's actually up, we do have stacks of artwork that people can go through. So it's not like it won't be on display; it just won't be hanging on a wall.
Got you, got you, got you. Okay, so like speaking of like, displays where everything is set up. Well, matter of fact, I'm gonna ask you a question before I ask this next question.
Okay.
With most of y'all exhibits, is it multiple artists in there? Or is it
Yeah.
just like, okay, so perfect. Now this is gonna make so much sense when I ask this question. So
Okay.
how much well, like what role does physical space actually play when you're dealing with multiple artists, telling somewhat different stories in certain
Yeah.
sections? And I'm kind of basing this question off of the last exhibit I just went to.
Yeah.
Won't say the name, but it was like three different artists, and like every section was like completely different. So
Yeah.
what role does the physical split space actually play when y'all have a situation like that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We the way I style, and everyone kind of does this differently, is I like to give each piece enough breathing room so that it can be
Hmm.
admired on its own. Um, of course, I want to try and fit all the work that they bring in on their wall. But if it is too cluttered, I feel like it actually takes away from the work. So,
Mm.
so that's something important with the physical space is we have this one really big wall, and this is how we lay things out. We have kind of like a cove area. We have a really big wall. Everyone who's listening definitely needs to come in and see the gallery. But usually the artist who has the biggest artwork, someone who does like anything above like a 60 by 48 painting, they'll probably get the big wall because that allows more space
Right.
around it. But
Absolutely.
also when it comes to the different styles and the stories, as you were mentioning about the artwork, sometimes it's really fun to put the two polar opposite artists right next to each other for a little
You
contrast and a
please
dramatic effect.
expound. Please expound on that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I can give you an example. We have this one artist, Dawn Calhoun, and she
Uh-huh.
does these beautiful landscapes, marsh scenes, oceans, super bright, super colorful and
Mhm.
joyful, very peaceful to look at. And then we have Amanda Tanner, who does the same kind of landscapes, but they're super dark and moody,
Uh,
and they have like a lot of moonlight instead of sunlight. So putting them next to each other was really interesting because though it was the same subject matter, they were communicating different things. So Amanda's was
okay.
like really evoked a feeling of like I don't know, like deep thought or like a heaviness, but in a beautiful way. As Dawn's was like, I feel peace when I look at this, and so space is very important in how you lay it out. Because while you want them to be cohesive, you also want them to you want the artwork to be able to convey what it's trying to convey. And so that was just an interesting little sidebar about how you can really play with where you're putting the artwork so that they stand out on their own.
Okay. So it's almost like a night and day type of effect of what you're going for.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, okay, I like that. I like
Sometimes,
that. I like
sometimes.
that. Okay. Okay, so we got this exhibit, right? And I'm just trying to keep this thing, in order for the people that's listening, wanting to get into this space. We want to be as realistic about what goes into curating an art exhibit as possible, right? So one
Mhm.
thing that I know that's real, because I come from, I grew up in a labor household,
Mhm.
so like we grew up around trucks and stuff like that. And I done seen some shit break.
Yeah,
Like I done seen shit just destroyed.
yeah.
So like how important, like, so let me just ask it like this. Are there any logistical challenges when it comes to getting these artworks and art pieces delivered?
Mm. Yes, there are.
Okay.
There's a lot of things that go into it. If the artwork is under
Mm-hmm.
glass and it's framed, you definitely
Mm-hmm.
need to make sure the artwork is protected when it's traveling.
Okay.
um,
Hmm.
especially if it's coming into you. But in the end, if the artist is bringing the work to you, then it's more on their end to protect their artwork. But if you're going to pick it up,
Okay.
then you need to protect it. Another
Hmm.
logistical challenge is making sure you have the artwork in time. Um, because,
Wow. Okay. Okay.
yeah, and a lot of it is, especially with our gallery, we allow our artists to paint on just canvas, like rolls of canvas without the stretcher bars in them. So if they are
Hmm.
going to bring in their artwork on a roll of canvas, we need more time to stretch that work onto a stretcher bar. Or if it needs to be framed,
Hmm.
especially if it's a paper piece, it needs to go under glass and it needs to be matted. We need to allow time for us to frame that because it takes a while. Um, so those are some logistical things that I've seen.
Hmm.
Another logistical thing is storing the artwork. Where are you going to put it? And also figuring out how you're going to curate the show. That is important too, because you might have too much artwork to fit, or you might not have enough artwork to fit. So those are
Right.
just some things that I've seen that can be issues. But if the artwork gets damaged, that's your biggest issue. But repairing
Woo.
it could be, yeah, that's
Okay,
it.
well, okay. Speaking of repairing it, and you don't have to go into too much detail because I think you answered it. So, like, let's just say you as the curator were responsible for picking up the artwork, and y'all made some type of agreement. How would you ensure the artwork's safety
Mm.
when
So
when safely transported, pretty much?
absolutely. So we, not to get too in the weeds, but for our pieces, what we do to keep it safe is we have this plastic wrap that we take and we wrap around every single corner. Then we have
Okay.
these it's all about materials. We have these
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
bubble wrap corners and rubber bands that we put on every piece, depending on the medium. If it's encaustic, if it's got a lot of texture, you want to make sure you cover it with like a foam core board. And it's all about how you stack it. Stacking it is
Okay.
absolutely everything. You don't want to put a small
High
piece
and
on top of,
yeah,
exactly. It's a jigsaw
high and
puzzle.
tight. Just yeah, I already know. I already know where you're going. I said I grew up in the labor business. I already know what's going
You know
on.
you know
Okay.
about stacking then. But I mean that's
Yeah.
really how you
Okay.
ensure it. And if you do damage it on your way, like back to the
Mhm.
gallery, it's your responsibility to let the artist know that you did damage their piece. It doesn't happen often, but
Okay.
that's always
I
fun
know
to do.
y'all safe. I know
Oh
Robert
yeah,
Pink don't play no games. I know y'all ain't making sure nobody shit broke. Just y'all. I know
absolutely
y'all
not.
good. Okay. So when it comes to, I want to move a little bit more into, like, I would say, marketing to a certain extent, audience
Sure.
engagement. So when it comes to these events, right? The people that y'all get to come out to the galleries, is it more so of the artist following, or is it based off of the art galleries or the museums following?
That's also a really good question.
Mhm.
I would say when we first started, it was more of the artist following. So
Okay.
it would be family, friends, and then maybe collectors of those artists. But
Okay.
as we've built as a gallery, we've really kind of we've developed a good clientele of a lot of our art collectors. A lot of people just love to come to our shows because they're so much fun. We have live music, we have complimentary wine. So I would say it went from probably 60% the artist following to more
Hmm.
of like a 30% artist following and a 70% just our gallery patrons, which is great.
Got
You want a
you.
healthy
Got
mix of
you.
both.
Okay. Okay. So speaking of that healthy mix, right? I want to stay right there. And it sounds like y'all have, like, mastered the balance of how to keep the flow of these things going when y'all are dealing with these exhibits and these new artists in the local area. So I'm just curious, if you don't mind sharing more, Emily, what strategies do y'all use to engage with visitors in the artwork that y'all are presenting?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. So we've really been fine tuning this as a gallery. And we've tried to develop this because, like, it's great to have the artist families and friends and their followers come. But, we are a business and we want to sell their artwork. We want their painting to find a beautiful home to be in, and we want it to speak to someone. So
Mm-hmm.
something that we do here at the gallery is we really focus on social media. That's more of a newer development for us over the past
Mm-hmm.
few years that I've been here. And then something else we like to do is if anyone ever shows any interest in a specific artist through having them here at the gallery, or if they purchased their artwork, we will put them on a list. And whenever we get new artwork from this artist, we'll immediately contact them. So that's
Okay.
how we keep the flow going with specific artists. We also do a
Mm-hmm.
raffle now. This is also a new development where it's almost like a scavenger hunt. When people come in the gallery, they have these little slips and they walk around the gallery. And if they see an artist they like, they check their name off on the list.
I like that.
So
That's new.
it's great
I'm,
because then we have information on the artists that people are interested in.
I wish they
And
did that at the last exhibit I went to. Just get,
yeah, I mean, it was a
please.
pretty cool development that we just came up with, and that way people are getting the artwork that they like in their inbox, or they're
Okay.
getting updated. So it's not that these people are necessarily interested in purchasing a piece, it's
Mm-hmm.
they're interested in this artist, and obviously this artist has spoken to them in some sort of way, so
Mm-hmm.
we're giving them the things that they like to see.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Okay, so like you touched on a couple of good things, right? That's somewhat leading into my next question, right? Now, as an artist, especially like a real artist, I always tell people, it's a difference between a creative and an artist. A
Mm-hmm.
creative is going to do multiple different things, from maybe original paintings to perhaps music or fashion design. A creative, or even film and television, a creative is going to do different things based on how they want to express themselves artistically. An artist is usually going to be sticking to one art form as a
Mm-hmm.
career, meaning they have to get funds from it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we know that that's a big challenge. The term starving artist has been around, for almost centuries, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, despite what the sales may or may not look like, overall, what would you consider a successful exhibit, or what would an artist at least consider a successful art exhibit?
Mm-hmm. I think that a successful art exhibit to an artist would be not just selling a painting, because a lot of the times when we feature an artist for an exhibit, maybe they won't sell a piece, but they
Mhm,
will get interest. So people will tell us that they're interested in the artist. They'll get feedback, and a lot of the
mhm,
times they'll get commissions from it. So let's say one of their
mhm,
paintings spoke to someone, but it's just not the right size, or it's maybe not the right colors. They love this piece, but it won't fit in their home. They'll get a commission from it. So they'll get
mhm,
fans, they'll get a following, which is
mhm,
really important to an artist, even if they don't
mhm,
sell. The
mhm. For
ideal, I mean,
those, yeah.
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. No. I was gonna ask. Okay. Before you went a little bit too far, for those who are just getting educated on the fine art industry, could you explain what a commission is?
Oh, absolutely. So a
Mm.
commission is when you commission an artist. I know I just used the definition, the word in the definition, but
It's
you
cool.
basically you agree to have an artist produce a custom painting for you. So
Gotcha.
whether that be someone painted this beautiful oceanscape, but you want dolphins in the background, or you want your family on the beach, that's a custom painting. So the way that would work is we would agree to have this artist do this piece for you because you like their style, and then we get like a 50% deposit just to protect the artist, um, and pay them as you go, and then they will
Mhm.
produce the painting for you. That's a
Okay.
commission.
Okay, perfect, perfect. All right, cool, cool, cool. You go ahead. Okay, we had to get that out the way, ladies and gentlemen. This information is for y'all. Michael Spill. I'm gonna make sure y'all getting everything that y'all need. This is the hottest podcast on earth. Emily, let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. Okay,
Let's
so when we
go.
talk about when we talk about like trends and innovations, right? I'm not sure if you remember, like I remember, but I remember back in 2020, the whole NFT thing was
Mm.
like, I didn't get it, but basically you could post a digital picture, sell it as an NFT. If you know anything a little bit more detailed, Emily, I want you to go ahead and elaborate. But are there any current digital artists in the fine art space currently working with exhibits today similar to
Not
that?
with us.
Okay,
So,
okay, okay.
so not with us. We definitely have had a lot of
Hmm.
people reach out to us and
Hmm.
ask if we take digital artwork. Um, to
Uh-huh.
be honest, I don't really know
Wow.
how we would begin to display that. Something that
Wow.
we like our slogan as Robert Kent Galleries is be authentic, buy original. And that's not to say
Uh-huh.
that, digital artwork is still original artwork, but
Hmm.
it's not something physical that you can really put on a canvas and ensure that
Hmm.
it's going to be the only one. That's what makes original artwork original, is that there's only one of it.
Right.
So we don't even really have giclées, which is a print,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
a reproduction of a painting, for those who don't know what a giclée is. But we don't really even have that.
Hmm.
So we're not really
Hmm.
in the digital space, nor NFT. The only thing that we've heard from people about
Hmm.
NFTs is people reaching out
Hmm.
wanting us to purchase their NFTs, and it's 90% of the time a scam.
Right, right, right. Okay, so pretty much y'all don't mess with digital art. But let's just say digital artwork were to become a thing in 15 years. Like, do you think it would change the way art exhibits are curated?
Mm. This is a big question, especially with AI and everything coming out.
Yeah.
I personally don't think it's going to change the way that art is displayed. And that's because I feel as though AI is getting more prominent and digital things are
Hmm.
becoming
Hmm.
more, it's just multiplying. I think that
Right.
there's this value that people are having more towards original and towards handcrafted.
Hmm.
Uh, and I
Hmm.
think that's only going
Absolutely.
to get more strong as time goes on and as AI gets bigger and as digital artwork also grows. I think the value of something physical and handmade, something with flaws and like humanity to it, is going to become more prevalent. At least that's how I feel, and I've noticed trends with this too with emails. Like no one wants emails that much anymore, but if you give them like an
Hmm.
actual physical document, it's like it's more valuable now. You before that was kind
Yeah.
of more of a nuisance, but now if you have something physical that you can hold on to, it's more
Hmm.
special. There's a humanity to it.
Right. Absolutely. No, I definitely agree with that. I feel like there is a future for digital art, but not necessarily in the fine art gallery space.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, like I don't know if you ever seen Our Robot, but I
Yeah.
imagine like if you like go back to the movies, like they canvas prints would probably be like digital canvas prints, holographic prints on the wall or something like that. But as we can see today, like digital art is out there a lot, and there is a lot of AI type of art, but it's really not resonating on a, like you said, like on a humane type of level. But
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's going to be big in certain industries, of course, like obvious industries like video game,
Oh
or
yeah.
even fashion design to a
Yeah.
certain extent. Of course, when it comes to, prints and things of that nature. So I can see
Mm-hmm.
it in certain spaces.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of the future, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, and I was just gonna agree with what you were saying
Yeah.
because digital art, it is beautiful, and I've
Yeah.
seen some really cool things. And I mean, you're talking about
Hmm.
holograms and stuff, like that would be sick. Like, but
Yeah.
I think that will become its own thing. and it'll
Uh-huh.
be exclusive like to fine art. Like I think fine art's gonna remain how it is, and then digital art might come and like make this new classification
Mm-hmm.
of different types of artwork. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So speaking of the future of like, galleries, museums, um, I see galleries and museums getting bigger and more popular, in my
Mm.
personal opinion. But what are your hopes as an art director at Robert Kent Galleries? What are your hopes for the future of art exhibits, museums, galleries, etc.?
I mean, I just hope that it keeps growing. I think a lot of people have had just this new inspiration to be creative. And I'm not
Hmm.
necessarily sure where that's coming from. Maybe we're more exposed to it now because of social media. More
Hmm.
people can get their work out there. But
Definitely.
I'm always hopeful that the art community is going to continue to grow. I think everyone has a creativity within them. We were born to be creative people, and it's been that way since the beginning of time. So I hope more people hone in on that and want to express themselves, even if they don't want to do it as a career, but as a hobby. I think it's really important that everyone uses what they were given. So, I mean, I hope it grows. I always will. In Marietta and Atlanta and the rest of the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. And gonna go ahead and roll out. Just got a few more questions to ask you.
Sure.
So last question before we go ahead and roll out. What advice would you give to aspiring curators, art curators who are looking to get into the art curating space, fine art gallery space? And we're talking about students at SCAD, and any other art institutions that are out here, or just people who are tired of working their 9 to 5 jobs, and they really want to go for this passion that they really love. What advice would you give to them?
I would say that you need to learn about art. You need to learn about art history. It's not always the most fun, but the amount of art history classes that I took, it's important to be knowledgeable about art and the history of it. Anyways, and then my biggest advice would be to reach out to galleries. And I wouldn't say reach out and say, I want to be an art curator. I want to curate the shows. I would say, do you guys need any extra help? And just get your foot in the door for working with a gallery, learn about the process of it, learn about the art that they have, meet the local artists at the gallery. But getting your foot in a door at a gallery is the best thing that you can do, whether that be interning there, just learning about the scene. That's probably the best advice that I can give you. That's how I did it, and here I am, and it's great.
Okay, okay. I definitely think our listeners are definitely gonna respect that. We're definitely gonna respect that. And just to end it on out, Emily, before we end it on out, I want to say that I greatly appreciate you for coming here. You showed me plenty of love all week. Definitely showed us a lot of love today for our art listeners that's really gonna love and dive into this episode on their way home or before they go to bed. And before we close out, where can our listeners see the work for the artists that you represent? Or how can any artist get in contact with you if they're interested in seeing if they can get into an exhibit that you're throwing next?
Yeah, so we are Robert Kent Galleries. We're located at 145 Church Street, Marietta, Georgia, on the beautiful historic Marietta Square. And if you want to check out our work online, if you can't come in, it's robertkentgalleries.com. And that's also if you are an artist where you will submit your work. We have a tab under info. It says artist submission. So you just follow all the directions there, submit your work, and we look at it quarterly as a team. And we get back to you and try to get your work in the gallery if we think it's going to be a good fit for the gallery. So that's how you can find us. You can also follow us on social media. We post a lot of the new work we get. We post about our upcoming shows. and we post some pretty silly little reels of us working as a team at the gallery. It's just Robert Kent Galleries on Instagram and Facebook.
Okay, cool. And I'm gonna also drop the link for those, ladies and gentlemen. So, you don't have to sweat the rewind button. You definitely will be able to find those descriptions that Emily just told you in the link. And before we get out of here, Emily, I've just got a few announcements. Ladies and gentlemen, please, if you are watching this on YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe button. Help us get this video circulating to the people that need the information. If you're listening to us on Spotify, go ahead and subscribe to us on Spotify. Also, for those of you moving to the Atlanta area and you are looking for a property to purchase, whether it's residential or commercial, and you are in need of a realtor and you would like Michael Spill to represent you because you know I'm the best, go ahead and hit that new buyers and sellers link in the description below. Also, leave your email and phone number when you hit the buyers and sellers link, so that way I know how to get exactly to you. And until next episode, people, always remember, spread positivity, information, love, and light. We out. Peace.